Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Excuse the weird setup, I am currently in a hotel, but I thought I would film this video, get it out for you guys. At the time it's coming out, I won't be in the hotel anymore. I just wanted to pre-film so I don't have to worry about it later in the week since I will be at work. So here we go. This is actually part 2 to my video, what to do the week before the exam, focusing now on what to do actually in the exam on the day of the exam. So I'm going to rewind a little bit before we get into the exam itself, and that is just right before you go in, before you leave home, make sure you've got everything that you're going to need for the exam with you before you leave, because there is nothing worse than reaching the exam hall and being like, Miss, I forgot my rubber, Miss, I forgot my pen, which does, slows you down and can throw you off a little bit because you're too busy panicking like, oh my God, I don't have any pens, than you are focusing on the exam itself. So I would say if you're doing an essay subject, make sure you have at least 4 pens with you. It may seem excessive, it might just be a me thing, but I do panic because, what if all of these pens explode in my bag? What if one of the pens doesn't work? It's just good to have them there just in case. And I actually did have a pencil case, a clear plastic pencil case, because make sure you do have a clear pencil case for the exam. I had about 10 pens in there, and it was just my exam pencil case for like 2 years because I just had so many pens in there, and I only did essay subjects after I finished my GCSEs, so it worked. But obviously if you're doing a math subject, if it's a calculator exam, make sure you've got your calculator, protractor, like whatever it says that you need to bring yourself that's not going to be provided, make sure you have it with you, and make sure you check if you're unsure with your exam, like administrators at your school, to make sure you are bringing everything you need, because there might be some schools, I think my schools gave out protractors, some schools might not, so just make sure you double check that, make sure you've got everything ready. Before you leave the house, make sure you bring a bottle of water in a clear bottle with the label taken off, because if you don't take the label off, they will do it for you, and might just be a me thing again. I just found that embarrassing whenever they did that. So make sure you remove the label, all ready to go. Nice cold water, ready for the exam. When I would wait outside the exam hall, sometimes I would go through a bit of revision, asking what the questions may be with the other people I was with, but the lead up to the exams more focused on in my other videos, so I'm not going to go into that too much here. But yeah, when I was waiting outside, as I say, I did sort of quiz my friends, ask them a few questions to just really get that last minute revision in, but you don't have to do that. Just make sure you go to your right seat, make sure you know where your seat is. Usually you will be told this by your school before the exam. For example, you might be in B3 as your seat, and make sure you know your candidate number as well. The centre number usually is displayed in the exam hall, just make sure you remember your candidate number, because I don't think they really remind you of that. So just look it over before you go in, memorise that candidate number so you'll be able to write it down. When you actually get in, wait for instructions. I know some exams don't like you to write your name or anything on until they've told you, so make sure you just listen until you're told what you need to do, and then follow the instructions as I say, and you should be all right. When you actually open the exam paper, for like the essay subjects at A-level, I used to like to look at the 30 markers first, like just look at them so that I know sort of what I'm planning my essays for in my head as I'm going through the rest of the paper. You don't have to do that again, it's just my own personal tip. Or, for a 12-marker GCSE RS or a 12-marker GCSE Sociology, just look at the long answer questions so you know sort of what you're looking for. With a maths exam or a science exam, I say just go through in order. And if there are any questions that stump you, I would say, first of all, take a second, take a deep breath, read the question twice. Just read it a few times until you really know what it's asking you. And if you're still stuck, skip it, come back to it later. But make sure you do come back to it later. I know with my ELAT exam, I did actually have to take a second there because I was so confused by that question. Like, I wasn't confused, but it was a difficult question. And the poems were difficult. And I was like, oh my God, how am I supposed to write about this? So I just took a second. I took about 2-3 minutes, just breathe. Breathe, take a second. I did get a good score in my ELAT. I will maybe make a video of that at some point. I don't know if I'm really qualified to give advice on that, so maybe not, but I did all right in my ELAT, so I think the whole taking a breather strategy did work, but obviously still trying to leave room for your timing, so don't take too long, but also take long enough that you're not as stumped anymore, because a calm brain is going to be better at thinking through the questions. Make sure you try and time your answers to how long the exam is. So usually you'll have experience of this in mocks, etc. anyway, or practice papers you might have done, practice questions you might have done. I know with stuff like sociology, it's usually a mark a minute, so for an 8 marker you want to spend 8 minutes, for a 12 marker you want to spend like 12, that's an RS exam, but whatever, it's a mark a minute, so that's how long you want to spend on each question, how many marks is it. Although I think usually we would get about 45 minutes for a 30 marker, so just make sure you save the most time for the longest question, because that's going to get you the most marks. So if there's like a 1 mark question that you don't understand, leave it, because the 30 markers where you're going to get your marks. As for needing the toilet, I would say make sure you go before you go into the exam. You can use the toilet during the exam most places, but you don't want to waste your time. So when you are drinking your water, don't like guzzle your water too much. But also make sure you're drinking enough that you are staying hydrated. Really, I say just work through the exam as much as you can. Take a deep breath if you're feeling stressed. Make sure you read the questions multiple times, because something I like to say with the essay questions is you will have different command words. It might be analyze, it might be explain, it might be evaluate, like they're asking you different things. Or it might be like evaluate the contribution of blah, blah, blah to blah, 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 X to Y. But you might miss the to Y and you just write about, I don't know, like childhood. You might just talk about the ideas of childhood when it's actually the changing ideas of childhood impact on family structures. Like, make sure you are answering the full question. So you're evaluating the impact of childhood on family structures. You're not just evaluating how childhood has changed. So make sure you read your questions carefully, read them several times over. And when you finish the exam, if you have time, actually read your answers. I know a lot of the time they say check your answers and you just don't. Like, I didn't during GCSEs, but at A-level it was actually a life send, looking over my answers and being like, hold on, I can add this sentence. And then that sentence I added linked my essay together like so much better. Or I realized I had a contradiction, so I quickly changed that, and that brought me up a whole grade. So just make sure you are giving like, I don't know, 5 minutes to go over at the end. If you don't, no big deal. Doesn't matter as long as you've answered as much as you can. Again, if you haven't finished, as long as you've answered as much as you can and you've put the effort in, you've stayed calm, it's fine. It's not the end of the world. But if you do have time to go over and check, make sure you do. I feel like that is probably the main advice I can give. If you have any questions, feel free to drop a comment down below. I will be happy to answer. And I hope you all have, a really great rest of your day. And I will see you in the next video. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed. Right, bye.